EZD6 is a game designed and written by DM Scott McFarlane, and published by Runehammer Games. It is a fairly simple game, and I'm going to go over the basics right now. The rule of EZD6 is you roll a d6, meet or beat the target number, and succeed. A boon is you roll 2d6 and get the higher. A bane is roll 2d6, get the lower. The difficulty scale is between 2 and 6, where 2 is easy and 6 is super hard. There's karma in the game. You earn 3 karma at the beginning of a session. You spend 1 karma on a 1-for-1 basis to increase the result of a roll. You earn karma on any failed roll, limit once per turn. You can add karma on any rolls besides a 1, and in Magic, you spend 5 karma to replenish your hero die. Using armor, when you hit, you roll armor to ignore 1 strike. A miraculous save is meet or beat the save number or take 1 strike. By the way, each hero has 3 strikes, and if you take 3 strikes of damage, you are out. Time works like this. You can take a 30-foot move action, take a turn action, and a free action each turn. The types of actions you can do are attack, cast magic, use a scroll, you can move again. And free actions are things you can do in a really short period of time, like drink a potion, draw a weapon, and speak. In combat, the players always go first in any order they desire. The distance is like so. Less than 30 feet is considered near. More than 30 feet is considered far. Magic is really innovative and works like this. You decide a power level that's from 1 to 3, and that's the number of d6s you will roll. You will meet or beat the resistance number of all the targets on at least one of the power level dice rolled. Typically, you'll have a resistance die for each target. You can max out at 6 targets. Some monsters have special resistance that gives them more resistance dice. Karma can't be used on magic rolls, and if a caster loses a strike, anchoring the spell, which you can do with some spells, you can anchor them, is broken. If the caster rolls a 1 on any of their power dice, the spell fails, regardless of any of the other dice succeed. To overcome that, they can spend a strike of their own to succeed instead. And so they could use the hero die to reroll that 1. And the final thing is, everyone gets a hero die at the beginning of the session. You expend it to reroll 1 die. And typically you'll be rerolling any ones you'll roll or whatever. And that's the game. And I explained that in about 2 minutes or so. It's a wonderful game. Let's talk a little bit about the book. The EZD6 PDF is a 120-page PDF. You can buy the book in softcover or hardback. Both are on Drive-Thru RPG. It is black and white with some art dispersed in it. There are a few sections. There's an introduction, and then it follows with a how to play section. Then rabble rousing, which is the game master section. And then there's a section on monsters, and monsters are pretty easy to understand. After that, you have your magic treasures, which contain scrolls, potions, weapons, armor, trinkets, and item properties. And finally, there's handy bits, which has rule references and all of the sorts of rules that you might find handy at the end of the book. And this is a great section of the book just to have handy when you're running the game. It's a smaller format PDF. I don't remember exactly the size, but it's certainly less than letter size, and I believe it's a little bit larger than digest size. The tone is, I would say, pretty casual. There's some advice by DM Scotty that's interspersed throughout the book in these little blocks with his head floating next to it. And it's something that I really like because it provides an additional insight into the game than just reading the regular text. Normally, I would ignore such types of things, but in this case, I liked reading them, and I did find them a little bit entertaining. I won't go through the rules because I just explained those at the beginning. To create a character, what you would do is this. Well, first of all, you would come up with a concept, and then you would choose a hero path, which they have the warrior, warden, delver, the brute, rascal, friar, conjurer, beastmaster, or skald. Then you would choose a species, which you have the classic fantasy species, humans, elves, dwarves, there's goblins, and halflings. Then you would choose an inclination. Everyone gets to choose 2 inclinations. Humans get to choose a third. Those are special talents that you get that are active in certain circumstances. Then you would create 2 aspects. Aspects are words or phrases that describe your character. The book suggests that you use aspects that don't cover areas that your other character traits will, just to give you a little bit more story. And the neat thing about aspects in this game is if you can narratively justify it, you can get a boon on a roll. And sometimes if an aspect will cause a story complication, you can earn karma from the rabble rouser or GM. So that's really neat. Then the next step in character creation is if you're a conjurer, you choose a circle of sorcery. Those are like different schools of magic. And then finally, you will choose equipment. And that is what you do to create a character. It comes together pretty quickly. A little word about the hero path. The hero path will start with a short description. It will tell you their health, which is the number of strikes. For the most part, that will be 3 strikes. Usually a hit is going to do 1 strike, although in combat, if you roll a 6 and then roll another 6, that will cause multiple strikes. So you can get messed up pretty badly by a single attack. The hero path will tell you what areas where you get boons in. For example, the conjurer gets a boon in magical mystery tasks, and the rascal gets a boon in acrobatic tasks. And then the hero path will have different abilities that the heroes have. Some of them have 2 or more, and most of the classes take 1 page, and it's really simple. The inclinations, as I mentioned before, are kind of like feats in D&D and other games. There's 30 of them in the book. The circles of sorcery are as so. You have arcane bands, which are tentacles that you emit from your hands or what have you. You have a blast master, which is exactly what it sounds like. You have a botanicalist who controls plants, an elementalist, and then elementalist will have to choose an element. There's the illusionist. There's a necromancer. There's a seer who looks into the future a little bit. It has some neat little mechanics of that. You have the shadow weaver who manipulates shadows and goes through shadows. And finally, you have the shapeshifter. The rest of the creating the hero equipment and all that kind of stuff is your standard fare for fantasy games. The rabble rousing section has advice on how to run a game of EZD6. And it's what you would typically expect out of a role-playing game like this. But this is pretty good stuff. It does talk a little bit about miniatures and terrain because, after all, DM Scotty is the craft father. And then monsters, you have some classic monsters, and then you have some EZD6 monsters, just so that you can throw your players or pushers and shovers is what the game calls them, for a loop. Well, monster listing typically will have a description, and then it's a bullet pointed list of the types of things you can do, like number of attack, type of damage, and special abilities they have. It will also tell you how many strikes they can take and what number you need to roll to hit them. Pretty simple stuff. The treasure section, just won't go into detail about that. I mentioned earlier how it has trinkets, potions, scrolls, weapons, armor, so on and so forth. You know, typical standard fantasy role-playing game stuff. But the thing is that there's lots of charts in here that you can roll on, and charts are always neat because they provide seeds of inspiration as a GM, either when you're prepping for the game or you're rolling in play. Now, if I had any criticisms about this game, I would have to say this. There's a couple of things. Number one, this isn't really for new GMs. You have to be an experienced GM to run this game, despite its simplicity. Some people might push back on that, but if you are 13 years old and have never played a role-playing game before, and you're going to be the one being the GM in the game, don't think this is a game for you necessarily, but it is amazingly easy to run. I have played it and had a blast. I've run it and had a blast. The other thing is this book really could use some bookmarks. I know it's only 120 pages, but some bookmarks would be nice. And hopefully future editions of this PDF will include those. If you haven't been able to tell, I really love EZD6. As a matter of fact, I've been obsessed with it since I first played it at Jeff Con back in early November. I've run a couple of games I feel like this is a game that I can even run without the book. I can do that with D&D 5th edition because I played enough of it and I played enough D&D. But even the system, it's just so easy. I felt like I was able to pick it up and run it just like that. And so it's fantastic for conventions, as this game has been play tested at conventions largely, but also in home games. So it can support a campaign. Scotty mentioned that he's going to cover other genres. As a matter of fact, he has at least one scenario that's like a modern horror scenario on the Quest Givers website. He mentioned sci-fi, post-apocalyptic. He mentioned superheroes. That got me excited. I can see how this can easily be made into a superhero game. It's something that would be worth my while tinkering with to run at conventions and game days or what have you. I definitely have my preferences for superhero games in a campaign format. But if I just was going to run something, at a game store or at a convention, and I thought I had a neat idea for a one shot, I would use this to run one shots. It's great. So those are my thoughts on the EZD6 system.